Not surprised whatsoever. I think the record defies. I think the record defies a lot of teams at the beginning of the split, and I think both of these teams are kind of playing despite their record. I think the Papis record shows that they're a little bit better than they are in actuality, and the opposite for OG.
Let's see if that trend continues. Now, Guan Yu banned by the Papis. It was open for the first pick, but they decide not to take it. Terra's on the table here. That's something that I'd be looking at.
A lot of times when I see teams have the issue, as much of an issue that Papis had with Guan Yu in game number 1, they also don't know how to play it. Because if you know how to play it, you know how to play against it to a certain extent. You can still be beat by things that you know how to play, but the Papis were out of their element against that Guan Yu. They clearly don't have it in their stable. I like the option ban.
Fair enough. Couple mages on each side. Ra the first selection, so Papis will get some sustain on their own side for Mr. Nazer, and then Optimus Gang takes Giannis Terra, which is a pretty scary first 2 picks there, especially with Draco Marino, man. Now he's got to deal against that Terra in those team fights. That's going to be hard to deal with for anybody, not just the support player.
Draco Marino is going to go for the Ganesh, and I like this choice. Terra's a combo-oriented character. He's going to shut that down a little bit. And Draco Marino, I think, is one of the shining points on the Papis. So to give him a character like this that has the potential to really control what the enemy's doing, I like that.
But it's kind of just stealing away the composition a little bit here from Papis, right? They take some sustain. They take some Naja for themselves as well. Now Creed will get his chance to show off what he's got on the Naja, but Optimus Gang, they lock in the Odin. Look, Odin not great against Ganesh, but really good against Ra, pretty good against Naja. Naja can take himself up and out of the cage with that ultimate, and that buys him a lot of time, but you're still forcing a defensive use of Windfire Whips.
That's the deal, is that Naja's ability to flicker somebody out of the game is really important, and Odin can force that on his own terms. And I mean, this is Smite 101. If you can force somebody, if you can force somebody else to do what they don't want to do, you're winning.
I don't think that's exclusive to Smite. That's exclusive to competitive gaming online.
Sure.
You're the one making the calls, trying to force the enemy team to play your style. It's not just esports either. It's sports in general. The team that's setting the pace usually ends up on top, and no pace setter in Cirquet or Gibalanque. Optimus Gang lose both of those options. Jingwei and Sobek banned by OG.
Love the Sobek ban. I think the Sobek is really important. The Papis lack a little bit of the hard control. Ganesh I view as soft control.
Sure.
Kind of stops you from doing stuff, but he doesn't really have any lockdown outside of the football push. So Sobek is, I think, the definition of a control character right now.
Fair enough. On her, the character that can't get out of that Odin cage, taken here by Warchi. Warchi struggled in that last matchup because Spanify certainly got the better end of him in lane. On her, a character that doesn't get to do too much of lane boxing these days, but maybe depending on what Optimus Gang wants to go for, and then Hachiman might be able to do so. Tier for Julio, though, that's a good look, right?
That is the best look. Julio, a new addition to the Papi squad, starting in the beginning of the year, and he's looked fantastic on this tier. This is a character, this is a player that you enable. Julio, when he's given the tier, has beaten better teams than the Papi when the Papis go against better teams because of how nasty he can be with this tier. He can be the one-man wrecking ball. If the Papis are going to win, it's because Julio has the tier.
So are they going to win because Julio has the tier?
Absolutely not. Johnny has Ratataska.
Johnny has his rat. Let's throw it over to the casters and find out.
Well, this kind of feels like if you got some of the comfort picks that you like going up against just some very good stuff in the meta right now. That's kind of what Optimus Gang have going for
all that hype up there just to be like, no chance.
That's right. Yeah, I really like seeing him being able to play this tier. The tier's sick. He beats better teams all the time. Not today, though. That's Tom Baddinger, I guess, apparently. That's
no, Julio's tier, though, really is another force to be reckoned with, however, and I'm sure that it's going to garner the respect it deserves from Optimus Gang here, because I do feel as though we have seen some very strong performances in the past out of Julio on this tier, and especially now more than ever. I mean, he just got spanked in the last game. This is why the pocket pick comes out, because he's looking to be the one turning Optimus Gang up on their heads.
Well, Optimus Gang have a lot of incredibly powerful tools at their disposal. The Odin on Sibi to try and help counter Mr. Nazer, the Terra with the Earth and Fury, possibly the best team fighting ability in the game, comparable maybe to the Shibalanki Ultimate, but might even be better than that. And then tons of global pressure between Seeing and Johnny here on the Ratatosker and the Giannis. So this will not be an easy task for Papis.
In terms of just looking at the drafts, raw drafts alone, I feel as though Optimus Gang probably in more of a favorable position in comparison to the Papis, because everything from the Papis has to be flawless execution, I feel. And if you're Optimus Gang, you kind of have a couple of opportunities here to make mistakes and not necessarily get punished for it. I mean, that's kind of the reoccurring theme for a lot of Giannis players, at least I would assume.
Yes, it's a very safe god and allows you to even get away with some positioning mistakes occasionally by being able to just walk through walls, using the portals to get back to safety and away from the rest of the squad. We've seen some gods picked specifically to make that harder, like Rom Snipes to track them down. We've seen the Susanos, which can kind of follow them afterwards if they've already applied the dot first. So there's some options, but Seeing won't have to worry about as much of that this game.
Yeah, like who's gonna chase him from the Papis? Oh no, the Lawbringer over the wall. Good luck with that one, pal, because he's got a threshold in between the portal, and you're probably gonna eat the unstable vortex to the face just for trying to follow.
Taco, that sounded personal almost. There's a little bit extra in there.
It's very personal.
You don't like Jason Giannis is around the
And
map?
correct. I mean, there's a lot of interesting Giannis plays. I think we've all been a part of watching that one teammate that just goes a little bit too ham, because I feel at a certain point, chasing a Giannis kind of turns into more of a stubborn factor as opposed to an actual, this is a good idea.
I am not going to let this guy get away from me, and then he does get away from you. Also, you die.
Because you've invested so much already. Speaking of which, Mr. Nazer going to eat that acorn blast straight out of Johnny. Loses the Aegis in the process.
That's right. That does keep him alive, but it's an important cooldown because Banify still has the dash available as Warchi, Drake, and Marino have established some strong pressure for themselves in the dual lane. Level 3 already, Taco, on the Anhur Ganesh.
And this is what we wanted to see out of Draco Marino, too. That was a pretty rough game 1 on the Achilles support. And speaking of rough, Creed actually going to end up stealing away Johnny, or I shouldn't say stealing because... Oh, no, it actually isn't his jungle. I'm sorry, I might be colorblind.
Yeah, that's right. Creed and Julio are aggressing here into the jungle, and Johnny's trying to do his own speed, gets the beads forced away, does manage to hold on to his young rat life, but in the end gets punched.
Won't be able to hold on to his solo side buffs, though, and that doesn't just hurt him anymore, but Sibi as well. And I'd really be feeling not having the mana sustain off of that blue buff, and the 10% cooldown reduction as well is also super important to keep track of for Julio.
And this is why we talked about how strong the Optimus Gang draft was earlier, because the draft is one thing, but comfort on your god is an entirely different thing, and that's why we talk about Julio being on another level when he plays tier. This pressure that he has over Sibi has set up for Creed to go invade the speed buff with him, to start stripping away the jungle. Matchups are one thing, yes, but the level of play that some players can have on some gods is different.
And I totally understand that Ratatoskr, a very adept and capable god in terms of clearing out his own way. Speaking of which, Sibi going on a trip up into the sky now thanks to Creed. Gonna land back down just around 30% health and won't be at any health now. Creed claims the first blood and the life of Sibi.
Putting on a light show before he goes, though, was Sibi. A nice send-off for the first blood for the Papis, as not even the Ring of Spear is going to be able to keep him alive there. Papis now with a kill onto Creed on the Naja. A little bit of revenge here for Creed over Johnny last game.
Ooh, didn't even realize that was Sibi's TP. So he had just teleported to that tower and immediately gets sent back to the fountain of a nice gank from Creed. I love it. Also, Creed might be working his way back towards Johnny's speed buff now that he has the timer of it. And seems as though he might look to pursue greener pastures because that one just feels a little bit too unsafe.
I might not have minded seeing him go for that one, Taco, to be honest. Still no beads for Johnny. They forced that out last time, and maybe a chance, but they didn't really have Julio in position to follow up with him as well. He would have kind of been alone, so in the end they go the safer route, they back up, but Creed, after showing a lot of attention to this solo jungle side of the map, and that's helped out a lot in terms of Julio getting up over Sibi, and even Creed getting over Johnny.
And speaking of which, Sibi knows that everybody wants his blue buff because they weren't able to take the speed, so might as well go for the next best thing, and standing right on top of these wards just means that Johnny has an opportunity here. Gonna go on Mr. Nazer. Searing Pain does connect, but so does everybody else.
They use it to avoid getting knocked up as Julio finds Johnny. Another kill for the Papis. That puts them up 2-0. The Yusufai rotates over and does get the stun, but right into the Lawbringer, right into the beam, and right into death. Julio gets a double kill on this tier. 2-0-1 already.
I think Julio heard Tom on the desk and is taking it pretty personally here because he has looked on fire with this tier. Multiple fearlesses connecting right onto the ideal targets, and that's really making sure that the Papis can fully punish anyone who gets caught up in that crowd control.
And that started off with Sibby not being able to get the ring around Mr. Nazer early on. He'd already dropped it, and Mr. Nazer made it out. Then Mr. Nazer uses the Searing Pain to avoid getting knocked up by Johnny. So just well played in that fight by the mid laner to avoid getting control, to set up for his team, as Creed is now in trouble. Johnny locked down in the Omen. Creed gets the big boy crit. Johnny's down, and now controlling the backside. Fusify means Mr. Nazer and Draco Marino can turn around and look for the kill.
The frustration is probably starting to take place here for Johnny. This is just about the worst start imaginable for your Ratatoskr jungle, and I do feel as though it's just a moderate circumstance of him losing his speed at level 4. I mean, that's just not an expected play that you would ever imagine to happen, because Ratatoskr, he's already got that Acorn bot usually by that point in time, and he did have it already on him, but he had no mana, he had no health really, and I just love that they took the risk of even venturing into the jungle that far.
It was a perfect way to try and slow him down in the jungle. And when your jungle path kind of gets thrown off, like your jungle timing, where you want to go, it really can kind of throw off the whole groove for the rest of the game. Like literally numerically, you know, being there right when this spawns and making it the most efficient gets out of whack.
Even that overcommitment, I think, from the last death that Johnny just had, that felt really aggressive from the Ratatoskr, and I know that that's probably a play he doesn't choose to make if he's on even grounds, but you just get so caught up in the idea of killing the guy who's been punishing you all game long, and it can tunnel pretty heavily on it. Najat crit factor is forced to be reckoned with.
We saw it happening just now, didn't we? With Creed able to get a good bit of extra damage there in the jungle. Going to be seeing Fusify and Draco Marino meet up on the jungle left-hand side. There won't be too much coming from that. Optimus gang now have got to regroup, Taco. They're down 5-0, 7.5 minutes in. It's a big lead for Julio that he's been able to establish himself over Sibby, as well as for Creed over Johnny. How do they sort of right the ship here? I mean, do they just kind of hold on?
They just need to hold on right now, take what they can get, and even if that means farming solely from the back of your T1 tower, those are the sacrifices you're going to have to make in the early game if you want to try and make it up in the mid to late. And we still got some time here before we really start hitting that mid-game stride, so certainly a down but not out quite yet moment for Optimus gang.
That's right. They're not done for certain here yet. It is about a 3,000 gold lead that the Papis have been able to establish here over Optimus gang. They're out in front, levels-wise, pretty clearly as well. But hopefully they can take a look on the dual lane. They're not too far behind Taco, Fusify, and Spanify. So maybe if they can play through that even footing, it'll help. As Julio actually gets caged in, but still has Lawbringer, so he jumps right out of there.
Just so aggressive though by Julio. I mean, he even expended the blink there, hoping to do a little bit more against Sibby. Sibby, however, did just get that Odin shield off right in time. Speaking of which, look at that perfect timing out of Julio.
That's going to prevent the explosion there, all the extra damage that Sibby was looking for. Julio able to interrupt that, and that's going to hinder the clear. Not any more kill potential comes through, but he'll take that time to back.
And for some of you newer players / viewers wondering why no damage was applied there onto the wave or Julio himself, it's because Odin's jump is interruptible. If you're able to CC him right as he's about to connect with the ground, it will not apply the damage that once would have happened.
And I believe he loses the shield for that as well, too, so you're able to just really go all in afterwards with Julio. Unfortunately, he didn't really have any kill potential afterwards, but just kind of makes the highlight play and you know, has Sibby feeling kind of bad.
And sometimes you just got, when you're feeling yourself, you gotta keep styling on him, because that's just gonna further contribute to your team's morale too. If you're playing good and you're feeling good, then you're probably gonna keep looking good.
It's like a rhythm shooter, you know, in other sports. So, like in basketball, you know, you keep taking that shot, stay in the groove, and sometimes just a heat check is seeing just barely does not get deleted there by Mr. Nazer. That shot was on point. I think he was just too far away.
It happens from time to time. Even some of the best fail to connect, and Mr. Nazer, it's just a friendly reminder to Johnny that he can't come around these parts any longer. Creed will lose that Ninja ultimate, though, to the Purification Beast from Johnny, but still, getting the beads is a huge benefit.
Creed able to get the good ring bounces onto Caspanify and Fusify for free damage, but Johnny is not able to land on anybody with the actual ultimate. He does get the stun on Draco. Earth and Fury comes out as well, but the Desert Fury in response is strong too. Fusify is getting incredibly low and forced to retreat. Seeing comes in to try and tip the scales. Beads not good enough. Seeing gets the kill.
Finally, Optimus Gang, you're able to put themselves on the board, but could be responded to a lot quicker than they thought. As Johnny just barely managing to get away from Creed and Mr. Nazer. Never know when that snipe's going to be available. Could be any moment here. And in fact, there it is. But Mr. Nazer going to go right in between Caspanify and Fusify and get no one at all.
Yeah, just off the mark there. But Johnny, I think, realizing what he was doing to that team last game, goes, is that what that sash was like? Is that what those big bursts were from that notch? I guess I'm getting a little taste of that myself. He does not end up dying, fortunately, but finally some signs of life from Optimus Gang off a good rotation from Seeing here in the mid lane.
Julio, still not quite ready to give it up. If you're at 30% or lower health, Julio's probably there to say hello to you, and for good reason. I mean, he's got so much pressure already in the solo lane. There's not really a whole lot of reason for him to continue to stick around. With the huge level lead that he has over Sibby, you can't expect Sibby to be as impactful or even be looking to match the rotations by Julio. This could be a great opportunity for the Papis if they choose to just kind of strong-arm the Gold Fury.
That would be a good idea from Papis, is try and force this lead and get Optimus Gang to come into a fight that they can't actually handle. The double-edged sword to that, though, is that it could potentially be an opportunity for Optimus Gang to get back in it. Papis start a fight at Gold Fury, lose a kill or the objective themselves, then suddenly Optimus Gang are back in it. Johnny, though, getting hit by the big crits, gets brought right back down. Creed not able to completely finish the job.
Creed trying to do his best to keep the pressure going, and Johnny will be forced back to base yet again. And I feel like we're getting really used to seeing this. Speaking of which, Seeing and I have the portal away from his own red buff. There's just no part of the map right now that seems to be safe for anyone from Optimus Gang.
Fusify gets collapsed on, forced to drop the Earth and Fury at his own feet, but Johnny, he is able to get the knockup and the stun on Mr. Nazer. Beads and Aegis have to be expended to get him out of there, and he will retreat. Fusify is low and has to retreat himself. Mr. Nazer could potentially be a target in the future now.
He did lose both of his actives there, and that's still a important enough cooldown to acquire if you're Optimus Gang. They've been playing from behind the entire match and have lost practically every single one of their buffs ever since the first respawn cycle, so they need to make sure that they're doing everything in their power to try and stalemate the game for Johnny and Sibby to be relevant again.
But they've done exactly what you asked for, Taco. They've been securing their own farm, standing right there with Papis when they over-aggress, but not going any further out than that. They really have not allowed Papis to further expand this lead that they've built up for themselves just yet.
And Julio, looking for more as always, ends up stripping away Sibby's blue buff yet again, and at this point I'm not even quite sure that I can still refer to it as Sibby's blue buff because it's starting to feel like blue number 2 for Julio.
Yeah, I don't know that Sibby has any rightful claim to that. We'll have to check the paperwork later, but it's starting to feel like that's Julio's as he continues to strip that one away from him. Just on cooldown, making life even harder for
Treating
the
this like a divorce, Finch.
Yeah.
Did he sign a prenup, you think?
No, he didn't sign
Apparently
anything
not.
for that. Yeah, because it is Julio's at this point. Is he able to grab that blue buff on spawn, but Optimus Gang have kind of slowed things down, I feel like. Put the brakes on just a little bit here in this game so far. And it's kind of on Papis to find that opening to try and get this game back with the lead expanding again. It's one thing to jump out to a 2K gold lead, but it's been like 8 minutes at a 2K gold.
And surprisingly enough, though, Caspanify actually leading over Warchi in terms of experience. He was sitting at level 13, meanwhile Warchi was still 11, so pretty impressive stuff out of the Hunter from Optimus Gang. When you think about it, since normally you'd anticipate that the enemy Hunter would manage to be ahead.
Papis a little bit late on that red buff, so it does end up, or Optimus Gang were late, so it gets invaded big through space and time. It's on the Warchick, Caspanify finds that kill. Mr. Nazer can't find anyone with the Searing Pain. He's down, up into the air though. Creed is able to find a target, but Johnny is going to go unrelenting onto Draco Marino, and Sibby's here to try and help with the cleanup. This is a huge fight for Optimus Gang as they take down 3 members.
They needed this so much right now, and Super unlucky, though, that they ended up losing Caspainify. That is definitely not the guy that you want to see going down. And speaking of
Good
which,
job.
Julio still looking for more. There's a Lawbreaker over the wall that we talked about earlier, but
This
guess
is the
what?
exact scenario that we described.
It's a threshold.
It's just not enough, kid. Johnny has to dash away from Creed. Good stun comes out. Sibby looking for the follow-up, but a great cage really, I feel like, helps keep Julio alive there.
Every time.
That's it, man.
There's no one to chase. This slippery Giannis and Sibby, he's looking for blood against Creed. Considering how that early game went, Julio trying to punish where he can against Sibby, knowing that that jump is on cooldown for just a couple seconds longer. Sibby will most likely be jumping into the wave, though, to clear it.
Yeah, at this point, they should both be all right. Now he makes it back towards Johnny in the solo lane, but that's the play you need when you're behind. You know, big hero shot from seeing on the Giannis that brings Warchi low right at the start of the fight. That means now we can all in and make it a 5v4 very early on. That was what Optimus Gang needed to turn that around.
Did the through space and time connect onto Warchi? Because I saw it go flying across the map, and it seemed to skip in front of the Golden Fury. The unstable vortex damage, though.
Something hit Warchi and he had no more HP
Unreal.
afterwards.
It is unreal how heavy these unstable vortexes are already swinging.
Good cage is going to lock Julio in, and he's going to hold on, it looks like, to the Lawbreaker at this point. Up, down from Sibby is not enough, and Julio not really worried about the damage from the tower with that breastplate to help out.
Tower the real MVP here, though.
Red buff defense, though, from Optimus Gang. That's pretty important for them to be able to stop the repeated invades from Papis. They've kind of been grabbing the red buff willy-nilly at this point, just whenever they want to, and now Optimus Gang can kind of defend it on respawn.
And Finch, we definitely just got the confirmation that ult did, in fact, manage to connect onto Warchi, so... those are the huge ones, though. You are right in every possible way. Those are definitely the plays that Optimus Gang need to be making if they want to be on the come up from that early game deficiency. However, letting the Gold Fury go for free to the Papis, definitely not the play.
Yeah, that's actually really frustrating, Taco, because Optimus Gang just made such a big play, and they were getting so close, and now Gold Fury gets stolen away from them. Papis now has a chance to grab the Pyromancer as well. I mean, Optimus Gang, where are they? They're not here. They're not defending the Pyromancer.
They took their back piece.
Yeah, I mean, they got those, and now Fusify rotates in too late.
Fusify games to the wrong neighborhood. Gonna get that dash canceled out. Won't even have a chance to go through the portals because he's gonna get gobbled up by Creed's ultimate, and Julio making sure to get credit with the killing blow there onto the Terra. Didn't stand a chance, and Fusify didn't even bother to use his ultimate.
He did not, actually. That's a good cooldown he'll hold on to, so maybe it'll help if they fight later. Good jump from Warchi to avoid the dash, and is able to not fall into any more trouble, but they just cannot allow the two neutral objectives on the map to get stolen away. Johnny, this is a very bold call coming down to the 1v2. He does have good damage on the Warchi, goes up into the ult. Caspainify is here to follow up with damage. Mr. Nazer, though, also comes in and support, and Optimus Gang have got to retreat.
Johnny didn't want to get too greedy there, and I can't blame him. As soon as Mr. Nazer shows up, you just know that you probably missed out on your chance to get the kill onto Warchi.
Yeah.
They were able to force out his Aegis, though, and that's still a pretty important cooldown to keep track of. But same could be said for Johnny, considering that he lost his Purification Beads and the Blink. So initiation could be a bit of a struggle now for the Rat Tasker.
Johnny, that felt a little bit like he was forcing it, though. That whole engagement, I just don't know if there was ever really a chance for him to find much there.
Once the support shows up, there's really no need to go for the flashy play, I think, of the blink on the backside, because at best you're pulling his beads, and at the worst, you know, somebody else has already started rotating over and you end up dead. I mean, Johnny nearly died there had he not had his ult available.
Sash comes out from Creed. That means Seeing has to say goodbye to his beads. Creed gonna keep right on chasing through space and time, allows him to reposition, and Julio now groups up with the rest of the Papis. They force all of Seeing's abilities out.
I love Creed's pickup of the Mad Guy's cloak, because there isn't a ton of hard CC here on Optimus' Gang favor. It's mostly coming down to Fusify and Johnny, but every single time that they've tried to initiate on the backline of the Papis, they've usually just ended up dying for it.
Julio is waiting on the backside of this fight, though, as is Creed. The collapse is on. Dharmic Pillar's there to make the retreat even more harmful, and Warchi is at the front side to put in damage. Creed finds a target on the back end. It looks like he might have Seeing up in the air, but the snipe is a little bit off the mark, so he will be able to retreat.
This could be the possibility that they needed, though, is Spainify going to take out Creed? That's one going on next onto Draco Marino as Johnny he looks for the huge Acorn Flurry around the back end.
They're going to continue fighting into this one. Sibby finds Draco Marino. Mr. Nazer forced to retreat on the right-hand side as Fusify actually gets controlled and deleted underneath the Tier 1 tower. Warchi finds a return kill, but Papis overcommit underneath the Tier 1 tower, and Sibby is able to chase down Mr. Nazer. Johnny, though, goes for the stun, goes for the dash, and is able to find it onto Warchi even with the beads and the jump.
That's the play that Johnny was trying to make happen earlier. It just wasn't possible because he had the backup of Draco by his side. Warchi effectively getting punished for lingering just a moment too long there.
But there's nothing for Optimus Gang to really get, is there? Gold Fury a minute away, Pyromancer down. They could not group and take a tower, even a little bit of jungle. It's just a fight to kind of slow Papis down.
But they held on to their T1, and throughout the process, were able to effectively find 4 picks. And
that's right.
Those kind of kills are still really important to make happen if you're in Optimus Gang shoes, simply because of the fact that they're the ones who are playing from behind. Any and every fight that they can actually find themselves in a positive outcome for, that's just a huge disadvantage towards the Pop. Or I shouldn't say a huge disadvantage, but it's definitely an oversight with the Papis because these are not fights that the Papis should be losing.
Yeah, the Papis kind of forced that fight underneath the Tier 1. You saw the plan. Julio and Creed were there for the collapse on the backside. Creed actually had, I think, Seeing in the air, and Mr. Nazer was a little bit off with the Searing Pain.
It was the mistiming of the Searing Pain, slightly to the right, and everything else afterwards was just, I think, Papis being a little bit stubborn, honestly. They shouldn't have stuck around. They shouldn't have split their forces either. I mean, they don't really need to send Creed and Julio as zoning factors. They can just have those two sieging with them on the initial T1 tower.
Another fight is on, this time in the jungle corridor. Already Creed has isolated a target in there to follow up as Mr. Nazer. Johnny is going to be forced to retreat, but Seeing comes back through, and he's providing plenty of damage in his own right, but Creed has isolated Fusify and has deleted him from the map. Seeing gets Mr. Nazer, because Spainify finds a double kill with the Aijutsu, and now Sibby can get the slow onto Creed. The sash not good enough. Triple kill for the Hunter from Optimus Gang. They've turned this game around.
Completely decimated by Seeing, Spainify, and Sibby. I don't think that anybody from the Papis would have ever expected that in a million years, but the fight that should have been so heavily in their favor just gets completely dismantled at its core by Optimus Gang.
The chase down is going to be on Julio, but he should be able to escape, and for my money, Taco, 2 things went wrong. They heavily commit on a Fusify, and they do get the kill, but it took a lot. And then again, the combination between Mr. Nazer and Creed onto Johnny was not enough to kill the target. Johnny left, he lived.
Largely due to the fact that he picked up a Pestilence in the process. Some of that anti-heal and the magical defenses. Julio doing his best, however, to try and recover this.
That was perfect to keep him away from an Optimus Gang. Are going to be able to get the Fire Giant, and now Julio stuck in a 1v5 that he does not want to take. Looks like he has the Phantom available, so he is going to be able to walk away for now, even find the heal, but he's certainly dead to rights, and he is.
This is the swing that Optimus Gang needed to pull this game back under their control. Speaking of which, Seeing gonna ult all the way across the map. They're trying to find the Papis while they're all currently out of position and pushed up.
It's a chance where he can get Mr. Nazer. The root does land on top of him. Mr. Nazer has beads and Aegis if he wants to try and retreat, but just uses the Searing Pain instead and holds on to those relics, but he does lose his life.
It's still not over just yet, though, because Draco Marino is still on the left-hand duo side. He didn't have a chance to back either since Sibby cut him off. Johnny gonna find him with that through the Cosmos, and all the damage is just following, dropping right on top of Draco Marino's head, just like that Heavenly Banner from Spainify to get the kill.
This is starting to feel a little bit like a collapse by Papis. I want to give Optimus Gang as much credit as I can. They've played well, but there's been miscommunications in this game from Papis here, Taco. And some of their team fights have not been on the mark. They're out of position around the map, not aware of where Seeing could be with the 3 space and time, and Optimus Gang just punished.
This was the Papis game to win.
Yeah.
And they just kind of lost the vision of staying grouped up like they had been. Their target focus, I think, has been in the right spot, going off of the Searing Pains, and I respect that Mr. Nazer is always looking to follow up Creed's initiations off of the ultimates, but it's not working. Connecting onto the targets that are investing into magical defense and other protections, only going to put them in an even worse spot.
And this is too much by Warchi. I mean, yes, he was able to keep pushing and get the tier 2, but he comes to get the speed buff and gives his life up.
he stole it.
And then they stole his life. That was the trade that happened.
Things are just going down one by one from the Papis. Everything that could have possibly gone wrong in a span of 5 minutes has definitely taken place. That one grouping, though, it's just the grouping that they chose to do. And I understand the mob mentality from a team composition standpoint, because you want to stay grouped up on top of each other. But when there's an Odin on the map, everybody being in the same place isn't usually recommended. You do need to spread out just a little bit more.
I want to give plenty of credit here to the play by seeing here in this game as the fight is on. Johnny is up in the air. Creed is low, and that is going to be the target. They are able to find enough damage. Johnny is able to get a little bit of revenge on the enemy jungler. Now the target on the left-hand side is going to be Julio, who does control Sting and set up for Mr. Nazer to delete him, but it costs Julio his life. They're pushing past the Phoenix now, our Optimus gang, but they come back and they regroup, and they take down the Firebird in the mid lane as well.
Only person with their actives intact really is Warchi, and he's 1 in 5. This Honor just a little bit too far behind, I think, to really do much of anything except watch and hope that he can deal enough damage for somebody on his team to find a cleanup crew kill. But everyone from Optimus gang still standing strong as, or excuse me, not the Honest, obviously.
No, he's in a little bit of trouble as Mr. Nazer is also in trouble because Spanify chases him down. Warchi looks for a kill on the over-aggressive Johnny, and he is able to find that, but Draco Marino has no assistance. He's been taken down because Spanify finds a double kill for himself, and now the Titan is under siege. Optimus gang have some low health bars, but they have plenty of fire minions here to help them out. Only Warchi and Creed are here to try and defend. Sibby gets controlled by the sash, and they take him down, but Warchi dies, I think, to minions. That means now Optimus gang can come back and look for the end if they want.
Okay, no troll though. Those are some boosted minions right now, and that's like 2 waves worth of fire creeps. Warchi tried to take out the boxing trade. I commend him for his efforts because he did burn enough time for everyone else from his team to revive, and Creed and Julio did their job in ensuring that the siege could not continue from Optimus gang. They were able to successfully hold on to their Titan, at least for the moment, but it is sitting at half health, and that can't be settling for the team.
Well, if I told you Julio started this game off 2-0-1 on the tier and was like 3 levels up on Sibby, could you believe it now looking at this point?
It wasn't even 3 levels. He was level 13, and Sibby was 9.
It was a real rough start. Optimus gang, off a couple of bad fights from the Papis, have just regrouped so well here, Taka.
Just goes to show how quickly a game can turn just like that. And
look at Spanify's damage. What? 25,000, 7K above the next closest person. I feel like he's been unchecked in this game.
He's been fragging. That is a 100% guarantee. We've been seeing his name pop up quite a lot here.
10 times?
Actually, for a kill being confirmed. And Hunter positioning is super, or it's really important in moments like this. I think that Spanify kind of just had a firm understanding of what sort of position Optimus gang were in for this game early on, and he just played it out. He did the best that he could to stay up in terms of farm against Warchi, and eventually that ended up building into something so much bigger than what he could have hoped for, I think.
Yeah, he was able to put himself in a position to rotate over and really kind of bail Optimus gang out of some tough fights sometimes. His damage has been instrumental, not just from the auto attacks, but even some big EI jutsus to get multiple stuns off in fights as well, because Spanify has really played this well. I want to give tons of credit to seeing formerly Ferricrick in the mid lane. That's how I'll think of you, buddy, but he's done an excellent job for them too. Remember that big ult he got on the Warchi that kind of set this whole thing in motion as Optimus gang are ready to push on the right-hand side.
Johnny, I love how he's splitting the forces though from the Papis. Their best hope of defense is to stay grouped up, and they can't afford to because they're just losing Phoenixes on every single side. As Warchi throws out that Desert Fury, is able to confirm because Spanify's dead.
That's so big to be able to take a Spanify down already. The Phoenix on the right-hand side does fall, but a lot of the damage from Optimus gang already taken out. We just spent the last 2 minutes gassing him up, and he's been taken out early here in this fight. Seeing, though, did find some good damage. That's forced back the rest of Papis. Now they're trying to regroup here on the left-hand side.
This is still a relatively healthy Optimus gang, at least with the 4 members still standing. And Johnny, slightly underneath half health, is going to get aggressed on now by Mr. Nazer. And Mr. Nazer might have potentially just stepped up a little bit too far here.
Julio is on the backside, rotating in towards Fusify and Sibby, but can't find the Fearless this time. Seeing has regrouped along with the rest of the squad. Even without Caspanify's damage, Optimus gang are going to stay grouped here and try and push. They still have Fire Giant on these other 4, but now the backs are coming out. They are ready to give up the chase here without that damage from Caspanify.
Crucial, though, that Optimus gang were able to find the fresh kill on that right-hand Phoenix, because it ensures that the Titan still won't be able to heal for the Papis. And even though they got 2 Phoenixes back up, they're not healthy Phoenixes. These are Phoenixes that were already sieged once before, so they'll still be pretty easy for Optimus gang to recapture.
That's right, that was the only Phoenix left on the right-hand side that had not been destroyed, so Optimus gang should not have too hard of a time. Even though Caspanify won't have the Fire Giant, everyone else still will for another minute 30 plus on the rest of the squad. So Optimus gang can regroup and try and make another push. And in all honesty, they should try and come down and get these Phoenixes while the Papis are still regrouping.
I think that's exactly the thought process they have going for themselves as well here, Finch, because all 5 members, yet again, bearing right down these lanes in every single which direction, hoping to keep the Papis as split apart as possible for these team fights.
Johnny keeping the minion wave pushed up on the right-hand side. Meanwhile, the other 4 members of Optimus gang have grouped up on this duo side of the map. They want to push here, and Johnny going to pull someone's detention over to the Titan, because it'll just fall to Firemen if they come in and push on their own, while he also keeps mid pushed up. But the engage is on left-hand side. Earth and Fury comes out from Fusify. Mr. Nazer being controlled by Sibby on the backside, has to use Aegis already. Caspanify is low, but Seeing comes through and shuts him down. Unstable Vortex. Meanwhile, Johnny gets the knockup, and that takes 1 member out of the fight, while Creed finds one of his own. Johnny takes down Orchi 4v3, and Optimus gang are going to keep pushing.
Creed still looking for more, though. Huge crit comes out, but definitely wasn't in Creed's favor, because Caspanify is still standing as Fusify gets the last hit kill on him.
Wow, and the Papis looked so strong earlier in this game, but Optimus gang just too resilient, Taco. They hold on. They're able to take game 2. They're able to take the set here over the Papis, and they do it in commanding fashion.
And I just feel as though this should have been an instance of bonus smite,
Yes.
but it just wasn't made possible. Papis kind of just threw away every single good thing they had going for them.